Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man, the battle of the century. Of course, that is the very first Marvel DC crossover that happened in the mid-70s, and they found a way to work. They, DC or Marvel contacted each other and said, like, look, DC's flagship character Superman, has been around for a long period of time. Our flagship character is Spider-Man, but he's kind of like compared to Superman, he's kind of a toddler. So let's have, Spider-Man teaming up with Superman. They'll fight, but at the same time, it will boost Spider-Man's popularity, hopefully, because he's next to, Superman. And they made it work. There was, battling and fights and swaffles and all that kind of stuff, but they made it work. It made it happen. And it's quite interesting reading it now, because I was born in 96. Reading it now felt like I was born in the 60s in First Point. No, I did not. I did not read it when it came out in stores. I did not own, was it $2 or $1.60 to buy it. Okay? I did not have that at the time. But I read it last night for the first time. And it's an interesting mindset to read from, because you have a Superman who is a pre-crisis Superman. He is basically true justice in the American way, who does nothing wrong. He's always right, and the only struggles that he ever has is him of how he's going to fight Lex Luthor, how he's going to stop the villain, all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, over Spider-Man, I was reading it and I was like, Spider-Man feels like Spider-Man. Like, he is still a little bit of like, I am Spider-Man, I am this, but he's still quipping, he still has some personality towards him. There's a sense of difference between Superman and Spider-Man where they have their interactions. But it's interesting reading the different pace, the different cadence, the different art style, the different style of storytelling that I'm so used to with modern comics these days. And I mean, when Superman's catchphrase is "Holy Krypton," and I couldn't stop but laugh every time I saw that. He says it twice, but I stopped, and I'm like, was that his catchphrase at the time? Like, "Holy Krypton," or "Heaven Krypton," or something Krypton. It's like, Krypton. It's like, okay, I hope, is that really his catchphrase? Yeah. If it is, thank God for modernization, and they dropped that, because that is cheesy. That is cheesy as hell. Anyway. And it's interesting reading a different Lex Luthor. The mad scientist Lex Luthor. The Lex Luthor who blames Superman, who hates Superman because he blames him for his hair loss. I know that sounds stupid, but that's the case. Not the business tycoon who hates Superman because the alien took my spotlight. I prefer that guy versus the one that was. But it's interesting reading that and a different Doc Ock and all that type of stuff. So you have to kind of mold your brain into the mindset of its time. And yeah, it is a product of its time. And the story at the time could be new. That, hey, here's two characters who live on the same Earth, by the way. They don't explain it by multiverse, they don't explain it by parallel universes or whatever it could be. They explain that, hey, the Marvel Universe and the DC Universe lives in the same world, except that they don't really cross paths that often. Now, the story itself is quite simple in that you have Clark Kent and Peter Parker heading to this press conference. They bring Lois Lane and Mary Jane Watson to this press conference, and while that's happening, Lois and MJ get vanished out of the bloom, and Spider-Man and Superman think that they're both responsible for it because they haven't met each other before, and they bow it out, and then they find out, oh, it's Lex Luthor and Doc Ock, or Dr. Octopus, and then they stop the bad guys and team up. I mean, and rescue MJ and Lois. And by the way, like, it's to show the whole we're in a different time. Jesus, it shows that back in the 70s, two women can't have a conversation about a dude and thinking she's going to steal my man, and it's like, Jesus, because MJ did that. The moment MJ meets Lois and Peter introduces her to Lois to MJ, she's like, where you found her? And Lois is like, look, he's too young for me. I prefer people my own age. He's a Spiderman. I prefer my Supermans. Like, I want, he's not my type, So, there was a little bit of warning eyes moments in there, but here's the thing: he is a product of his time. There's tropes, there's things that makes you want to laugh over. They have at the beginning they do an epilogue, a 3-part epilogue, one on the villains, one that's focusing on Superman, and the one that's focusing on Spider-Man before the actual story begins. So it takes a while for it actually to pick up, but the writing itself and the pace of it, like its pace of its time, it works in its favor. It's a hard thing to critique about, because a modern version of it would be kind of see, and knowing like, okay, Lex was not a business tycoon, Doc Ock was probably had once upon a time been Spider-Man. What is that situation like? But yeah, it's just, you're weird. You're like, okay, like it's not that hook thing to go. Like, I'm thinking of covering all the Marvel DC crossovers, and the next one is another Superman Spider-Man one. It's called Superman Spider-Man, and it's probably gonna take me a while to get into the rhythm of these, or it's going to be like, hey, it's a set saying it's a product of its time. There's certain things here, there's certain things there. The art of it is very well, as I have said. It's very dynamic. It's very off the page, very striking. The action itself, like the fight itself, is pretty well put together, and how it stops is kind of some comedic moments in there, where you have like Spider-Man just going whambo, on soups, and he's just breaking his hand, and it's like, fuck my hand. And there's certain things that get solved a little bit too quickly, where, okay, Doc Ock and Lex Luthor are defeated, but where's MJ and Lois? Oh, there they are, like, they found them, and now everything's good. You're like, wait, what? Can you explain that to me, please? How we got there? But itself is there's a decent read, and it is a bit of a time capsule. But yeah, the next one is what is the next one? It is Superman and Spider-Man, and that's the title for the next one. And I'll see you when I cover that one.